Hello. So today is 11th March, and I again have Indian Express newspaper with me. And the most important article always, as I find on the explained page of the Indian Express newspaper. So there are also in today's newspaper also there are two three important articles that I would read. First important article is why safari parks may be a double-edged sword for the big cats. So big cats includes a lion, leopards, tigers, and all these. So let us read what this article is about to say. So on March 6, the Supreme Court said it was inclined to approve the establishment of the tiger safari at Pakhrao in the buffer area of Corbett Tiger Reserve. So Corbett Tiger Reserve is in Uttarakhand, and this Jim Corbett National Park has the highest density of the tigers in India, not in numbers but density wise. However, safari parks are meant only for injured conflicts or unplanned local tigers and not those sourced from zoos, the court said. It constituted a committee to frame guidelines to for such facilities within 3 months. So, what does a tiger safari really mean? A tiger safari is not defined under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, which says tiger safari is not defined. Okay, so which says that no construction of commercial tourist lodges, hotels, zoos, and safari parks shall be undertaken inside a sanctuary except with the prior approval of the National Board for Wildlife constituted under the Act. So the concept of tiger safari in the wild was first envisaged in the guidelines for tourism issued by the National Tiger Conservation Authority in 2012, which provided for such establishment in the buffer areas of the tiger reserves, which experience immense tourist influx in the core critical tiger habitat for viewing tigers. 4 years later, the NTCA, that is the National Tiger Conservation Authority, issued guidelines to establish tiger safaris in the buffer and fringe areas of tiger reserves for injured, conflicted, or orphaned tigers, while underlining that no tiger shall be obtained from a zoo. In 2019, however, the NTCA allowed animals to be brought from zoos for tiger safari parks and gave the Central Zoo Authority the power to select such animals. Okay, so housing zoo tigers or other captive animals in a tiger habitat is obviously a bad idea, which would put wild tigers and other wildlife at risk of disease. Fittingly, the top court held that the NTCA's understanding that tiger safaris are merely zoos built inside tiger reserves would be totally contrary to the purpose of tiger conservation. But why build a tiger safari in a forest? The 2012 NTCA guidelines justified that safari parks as a means to lessen the tourism load inside tiger reserve that causes stress on wildlife. Second, many are against packing of animals that are unfit in the wild, so they may be injured, orphaned, or given to conflict to forward zoos. So, safari parks, they argue, help hold such animals captive in their natural surroundings. Third, some stakeholders argue that buffer areas were designed to allow activities that support the livelihood and development needs of local communities, and safari parks generate money and in turn local goodwill for the tiger. And what is a counter argument? Records show that efforts to distribute demand seldom works in tiger reserve. Instead of bringing down the number of vehicles crowding around the tiger, opening new safari routes have ended up inviting more tourists. Also, the very idea of displaying rescued tigers in safari parks is a departure from the practice of keeping such distressed animal in non-display facilities. Even the 2016 guidelines were hesitant to make this policy shift and made it mandatory for NTCA to assess every recovered treated animal before putting them on display in safari parks. Third, housing local rescued wildlife in their natural environment is an idea driven by concerns for animal welfare. But conservationists say a captive animal will be captive anywhere. They argue that building safari parks for rescued tigers inside tiger reserves prioritize the welfare of individual tigers over the interest of species, since such establishments are bound to cause disturbance in wild habitats. So, what is the ground reality in Corbett and elsewhere? The site selected for Pakhrao Safari Park. So, Pakhrao Safari Park is in Jim Corbett National Park. So, that we should remember. is on the southern west fringe of the Corbett Tiger Reserve, bordering farmlands in Uttar Pradesh. Uttarakhand Forest Department officers argue that dispersal of tigers and other wildlife to west towards Rajaji Tiger Reserve happens mostly to the north of the proposed safari park, which can be accessed by an existing forest road and will not require the cutting of trees. Some local stakeholders say that the Ramnagar area on the eastern side of the reserve has hogged all the benefits of Corbett's tiger tourism so far, and the Pakhrao Safari Park carries the promise of livelihood and development on the other side. However, a small experiment has led to wasteful expenses in Rajasthan's Ranthambore. In 2015-16, a safari park for rescued tigers was envisaged there with the intention of lessening the tourism load and aiding local livelihoods. The project has so far seen multiple attempts at constructing peripheral walls, which have, however, collapsed repeatedly, necessitating fresh work orders every time. So, before the Supreme Court drew the line on the zoo animals this week, the number of safari parks inside protected forest stocked a range of zoo collections. For example, the Nahargarh Biological Park, a part of the Nahargarh Sanctuary on the Jaipur Delhi Highway, which was inaugurated in 2016, has Asiatic lions, Royal Bengal tigers, panthers, hyenas, wolves, deer, crocodiles, sloth bear, Himalayan black bear, etc. However, introducing animal in permanent facilities built in the wild invariably creates stress for territorial species, and the resident leopards in Nahargarh often reacted aggressively to the captive ones housed in the safari park. So, what is the road ahead for the safari parks in the tiger reserve? The guidelines for the tiger safari parks are awaited from the Supreme Court appointed expert committee. However, a one size fits all formula is unlikely to be helpful. Senior state forest officials cautioned the more prudent approach would be to lay down guiding principles for local authorities to find site specific solutions, they said. It is also important to avoid the temptation of making tiger safari parks a routine feature of the tiger reserve, experts said. The 2016 guidelines has said that a tiger safari can be proposed only by tiger reserves that have already utilized 100% of their tourism carrying capacity. So this was about the safari park. So there is another important article that is about India's indigenous fifth generation fighter jet AMCA. What is its features and why it is important? So let us see. The Cabinet Committee on Security last week cleared the 15,000 crore project to design and develop the advanced medium combat aircraft, India's fifth generation fighter multi-role fighter jet. The Aeronautical Development Agency ADA under Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO will be the nodal agency for executing the program and designing the aircraft. So it will be manufactured by state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. The aircraft will put India in a select group of nations that have their own fifth generation fighter aircraft. So what will be the features of AMCA? That is Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. First, it will be a stealth feature. The 25-ton twin engine aircraft, bigger than other fighters in the Indian Air Force inventory, will have advanced stealth features to avoid detection by enemy radar. So, Dr. Krishna Rajendra Neely, the project director of AMCA at ADA, said the aircraft would be on par or even superior to other fifth generation stealth fighter aircraft in use globally. Okay. So, what about fuels and weapons? The aircraft will have a large concealed internal fuel tank of 6.5-ton capacity and an internal weapons bay for a range of weapons, including indigenous weapons, to be buried in its belly. Okay. So, engine, the AMCA MK1 variant will have the US built GE414 engine of the 90 kilo Newton class, while the more advanced AMCA MK2 will fly on the more powerful 110 kilonewton engine, which will be developed by DRDO's Gas Turbine Research Establishment in collaboration with a foreign defense major. So this is something a disadvantage to India, that India is not able to manufacture its own fighter jet engine. So we have to be dependent on the foreign countries to provide the technology for engine development. So why AMCA is special? The discussion for developing the AMCA started in 2007. The initial plan was to jointly develop the aircraft with Russia under a fifth generation fighter aircraft program. However, India withdrew from the FGPA project in 2018. The indigenous light combat aircraft Tejas is a 4.5 generation single engine multi role aircraft. So Tejas is a single engine, not multiple engine, and it's a multi role aircraft. So the AMCA will be India's indigenous fifth generation fighter aircraft. What will set the fifth generation aircraft apart is primarily its stealth feature. The aircraft will have a low electromagnetic signature, which will make it difficult for enemy radar to detect it. At the same time, it will have powerful sensors and new weapons, so it is able to register the signature of enemy aircraft and take them out. A fourth generation aircraft is typically not designed or configured to have these stealth features, even though some features may be added later. But even that will not make a fully fifth generation aircraft. Former AMCA project director at ADA, Dr. AK Ghosh said, what is ADA? That is a Aeronautical Development Agency. This is under the DRDO, Development, Defense Research and Development Organization. So stealth features such as an internal weapons bay and a bigger internal fuel tank are part of fifth generation aircraft like the AMCA. So external fuel tanks and externally attached weapons have a huge signature and easy to detect for radars. The special material that will be used on the aircraft surface will divert the radar signature instead of reflecting it back. Another important aspect would be to ensure a higher utilization time and a smaller serviceability or maintenance period for the aircraft. This will be aided by the inclusion of the comprehensive integrated vehicle management system to keep track of multiple structural components and to assess the condition of the aircraft in real time. So, development timeline. The ADA hopes to have the first flight of the aircraft in 4.5 to 5 years. Okay, so from maybe probably by 2030 or even before that. The full development of the aircraft is expected to take around 10 years from now. Okay, so that take its timeline to around 2034 to 2035. Okay, so five prototypes will be built before HAL begins manufacturing the aircraft. So private industry is also expected to involved in the manufacturing of the aircraft. So this is very important that private sector should participate in while manufacturing of the those such defense defense equipment and weapons, because only state owned entities will not be able to provide sufficient ammunition or equipment to the defense to the Indian army, provided that we are surrounded by two hostile neighbors, the name you know. Other fights, fifth generation fighters, only a few countries have built a fifth generation stealth fighter aircraft such as the F-22 Raptor and F-35A Lightning II of the US, the Chinese J-20 Mighty Dragon, and the Russian Sukhoi Su-57. So IAF's dwindling numbers. The IAF currently has around 30 fighter squadron against the sanctioned strength of 42, and the number is expected to go down further as squadron of MiG-21 and MiG-29s, Jaguars and Mirage 2000s are scheduled to be phased out by the middle of the next decade. The IAF has indicated that it requires 7 squadrons of AMCA to begin with. Considering the IAF's requirement, the planned induction of additional squadron of LCA and AMCA will not add up to the sanctioned squadron strength in a decade. So that is very important for India to increase its squadron strength to take on both the hostile neighbors if the things allowed. So another there is another important article that I would like to read. And what is Pi? The kind chatbot that recently got an upgrade. So last week, Inflection AI launched its Inflection AI. So this is the company name. Inflection AI launched its latest language model LLM Inflection 2.5, and upgrade on its friendly chatbot personal assistant Pi. So based on Palo Alto, California, Inflection AI was founded by Mustafa Suleiman, Reid Hoffman, and Karen Simon in 2022. Suleiman was the co-founder of the former head of applied AI at DeepMind, while Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn. Okay, Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn. So all things are not important. What is important to know that how Pi is different from other chatbots. Pi was launched at a time when the world was marveling at OpenAI's sensational ChatGPT. While ChatGPT offers human-like and functional responses, Pi has more personality. If Chat, GPT, and Gemini are like personal assistants that are useful at work, Pi is more like a companion to humans and is free to use. So it comes with a choice of six distinct voices. The company has described Pi, which stands for personal intelligence, as a new type of computer program specifically designed to be kind and helpful. So on the technical side, for training purpose, the chatbot has been shown billions of lines of text on the open web. This, according to the company, allows Pi to have conversation with users and answer a wide variety of questions. So this is something Pi is also related to, so a chatbot. So that is all from today's newspaper. So we'll meet tomorrow with some important articles.